a playlist original.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode Back to the Blockbuster with your host Giz and Jackson. Another anniversary episode. We just got done doing one for Eyes Wide Shut from 1999, and now we're doing a completely different movie from 1999 in the Blair Witch Project. But we didn't want to do it alone, so we brought back some familiar faces. And it's good that you guys are back on here now because I did put it on our Instagram a while back. The last time you were on, we did The Witch as a deep dive, and that it was our second best performing episode on Good Pods, and it's now officially our best performing episode on Good Pods.
Wow.
So yeah,
we are lucky to have you guys back.
From the Return, Revenge, Resurrection podcast. They are always on when we're talking horror movies because it makes sense because they have a horror movie podcast. So welcome back to talk about this movie. I hope this is a better one to talk about because before The Witch, we had you on an anniversary episode for the Friday the 13th remake, and you guys were troopers.
Yeah, that was some fun talking.
It was, even though you didn't love it, you still had fun, chatting it up with us about it. Yes. But one of the reasons I also wanted you guys on too, because of course I know what the marketing for this movie was like in 1999. Jackson was a wee lad in 1999, so I mean, I'm sure he's read about what the marketing was like. But
it's infamous. For sure. But no, did not get to experience it myself.
Yeah, I wanted other people on who maybe experienced what the marketing was like too for the movie as well.
I get it. It's cool.
So a lot of kids think it's funny now. They're like, no one thought this was real. A lot of us thought this was real when it was coming out. At least I did.
Times were different.
Times are very different. And I think it was my mom at the time when this movie was coming out. She was like, but why would they release the last known footage of these kids like as a major motion picture? I was like, oh no. Like maybe they want to find out what happened to him. Like, I don't know. This is silly. But
the marketing totally falls apart when your mom gets involved.
Yeah. If you use your brain, it's not going to make sense. But
stop ruining the fun.
I know. Yeah, don't ruin the fun. But since you guys are our guests, I'll go with Dean first. Do you remember when you first saw it and kind of what you thought about it? I guess you can start with like the marketing of it, and then when you finally actually got to see it and kind of what you think of it now.
Yeah, that's perfect because this movie had two important moments in my life, and one was definitely the marketing, and the other was definitely seeing it for the first time, which happened way later. So I was in 1999. I was 13 years old, so it's kind of perfect for that like talking with your friends about whether this thing is real or not. The website, everyone remembers the website. Everyone was going to it and seeing interviews and footage and case file pictures and stuff. It was just that before the movie is even out, you're just talking with your friends about whether this could be real or not. And I just remember that. I remember having these conversations, and I'm usually like a believer. I'm usually like, yeah, that's going to be real. Like I want to believe in that. But as a person who was terrified of horror movies at that time, the last thing I wanted was to believe that a horror movie could be real. So I was on the opposite side. I was
such
like,
a conflict,
no way.
Eh?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, no way. This thing can't be real. Because if this is real, that means in my mind, every horror movie could be possibly real. And I hated that. I hated that idea. So yeah, in the schoolyard debates, I was the one saying, no, there's no way. There's no way they would actually release that. There's no way that's a real movie. I did
right, guys. Right, please,
yeah,
right, guys.
Exactly. Please confirm,
please back me up
confirm
here.
it. Has anyone seen it? Please confirm that it is definitely fake.
So
I didn't see it as a kid. Sort of what we talk about on our show. I didn't like horror movies as a kid. I've just come around very recently, and this was one of my earliest watches into actually enjoying horror. So like maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago was the first time I saw it. I was out in a cabin, and I was like, okay, I kind of into horror movies now. Like, yeah, this summer I kind of got into horror movies, and it's like, what do we do? What should we watch at the cabin? The Blair Witch Project. We gotta watch it at the cabin. So we watched it at the cabin, and I was terrified. Like, I think this movie is very scary, especially that first time. I think that first time you watch it, it can be very scary. So I was quite frightened at the cabin. That's a perfect place to watch it. Just all that's outside of that cabin is woods. I'll always remember that experience.
All right, Mike's last cigarette, which is very appropriate. What did you?
Okay, so with it? Jackson, how old were you when this movie came out?
I was just one. So it came out July. I had just turned 1 the previous month when this came out. I'm a 98.
Ouch. Okay, baby. So that hurts a little bit. So I would have been 8. I was 8 when this movie came out. All right, so I don't really remember too much of the digital side of the marketing for this, but I do remember all of the talk. Like everyone talked about this movie, and I was the person who was like, I can watch any horror movie. Like it doesn't faze me. And I knew, like, I was never one to believe like, oh, this is real. Okay. That was never going to be me. But I remember the first time I watched this, and I was with my uncle. We go to Blockbuster. All right. So this is right after it came out. Yeah. We go to Blockbuster, and he goes, get whatever you want. And I'm like, I want this. I want to see this Blair Witch Project movie. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, are you sure you can handle it? I'm like, stop. All right, I can handle this. 8-year-old Alex is like, calm the fuck down. All right, I got this. So we get back to his apartment, put the movie in. I would say I probably saw about half of it because like so much of it was like my hands in front of my face. This movie got me as a kid, and I remember so many of the visuals from it growing up, and then that was the first time I made it. I think I made it all the way through, but the times that got me the most. So, like Dean with his cabin story, I worked for a summer camp for many years. Okay, growing up, and nice. this was a fun one to turn on after all the kids went to sleep. All right, the counselors would go back to admin, all right, to like our little house that we had there before breaking away to our own cabins, and we would watch this movie, and then we would just fuck with each other the rest of the night, because legitimately, and I watched this. It's been a couple of years since I've watched this movie again. I just watched it again today. If you watch this movie under the right circumstances, lights off, by yourself, this movie is still pretty fucking creepy. You know, this will get you, okay? Because I'm wondering the whole time, like, that darkness that I'm looking into, that twig, is that a twig or is that something else? All right, no. What am I seeing? I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm uncomfortable. It's a great movie. Like, legitimately, this watch surprised me. I'm like, I think I'll enjoy it. No, this is a good movie.
Yeah.
My experience. Well, I was naive and I thought this was real. I remember. I think they had a documentary on like the Sci-Fi Channel when this movie was coming out too. That actually made it appear even more real. So anyone that was trying to tell me it was fake, I was like, no, they made a whole special about it. Telling all my friends TV. Telling all my friends why I thought it was real. And it was really great marketing. We hadn't really had anything like that before. I think at that point. I will say this: when I did finally see it in theaters, I didn't love it when I first saw it when I was younger. I think it was because it was all that marketing and hype, that the marketing was scarier to me than the actual movie itself. But I will say, for watching it for this, and then just knowing what the 3 actors went through during and since the movie came out, especially with how hard they worked and how little they made from doing it. I watched it in a completely different way today. And while I still don't think it's like the scariest thing ever, what I did get caught up in was like the psychological aspects of like watching these 3 people just kind of gradually turn on each other because they're in a very impossible situation. And I was just like, I think any one of us, if we were in that situation, that we could identify with any one of those characters. And I really dug that aspect of it. And I actually liked it a lot more than I did from previous viewings. And I think I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I hadn't watched it in a really long time, and I wanted to approach it and watch it differently, just knowing what I know now about the making of it. Because Artists and Entertainment went through a lot to make sure that we thought this was real. They would even let these guys take other acting jobs, and they were like, "No, you're not actors. You disappeared in Burkittsville. Like that's not like you guys can't get other acting gigs." Like they talked about how they got yelled at because like they found out one of their publicists was like trying to get them other acting jobs, and before the movie came out, and they're like, no, that you're going to kill the illusion of it. And I guess on one hand that works for the studio because like it was a brilliant thing to do for the movie itself, not so much for the people in it who still wanted to work. But I mean, I think as like a experiment, it's really creative and it is really well done. For better or worse, it started the whole like found footage horror movie craze. I don't know how you guys feel about that as a whole. There's some good ones and some not so good ones. But I think my big thing about that becoming a big thing is I think it's hard to make those movies work in the same way after this, because like once you have this and you're like, oh yeah, it's not real. I know they're trying to make it seem like it's real. That once that illusion's kind of killed for like these other movies that came after
once, right? Yeah.
It's not as effective with like, even though I enjoy stuff like Paranormal Activity and Cloverfield and Quarantine and stuff, like it's still the way that this movie did it. I don't think you can really do it like you said more than once, and it is innovative in that way, in that sense. And I will forever be I guess grateful as a horror fan like what it did for the genre, because it really did. I think we were getting out of the whole like late 90s slasher movie thing that kind of started with Scream, started with Scream, and then we were getting into like something different. And kudos to them. I mean, we have a really cheap movie. I think they said the final cost was like $750,000. They made $250 million worldwide.
Oh my god!
Incredible!
A pity they couldn't really share that with Heather Donahue, Michael C. Williams, or Joshua Leonard, who said they all got fruit baskets after the movie had like made.
Oh my god! What a slap!
They put them through so much. Like not just there in the woods. Obviously, they put them through a lot, but like. On IMDb, they were dead. Like they were listed as dead on IMDb. Yeah. So if you went to look them up, it would say that they
went to that length.
Yeah,
crazy.
So like they couldn't appear at premieres or anything. There's like a really sad story of all three of them just across the street from like what the premiere, just like hiding basically and seeing the lineups and being really happy that they could see like how many people were going to see their movie. But like they're not even allowed to be there. It's like I'm with you, Gaius. It's like this is a really interesting way to make the movie, and it really the movie benefits from it. I think it's a great movie because of all that stuff, but also it's really sad for these three actors who don't get that big share of it, don't get that big success. They should be huge horror stars, and they're not.
And they kind of have I think it's getting better now that they've kind of they started that lawsuit against, because Lionsgate acquired like Artisan, and like they're the ones in charge of the franchise now. They're really doing their best to get a piece of the pie. This wasn't like a union job, Joe. So they said, like SAG said, it's really hard to figure out like what they should have earned since the movie came out in 1999. But they basically what SAG they put the onus on Lionsgate, like, hey, we don't know how much we can do, but maybe you guys should just be good people and do right by them, like make them feel guilty in the press. And I don't even know if that's worked completely. There was like a big Variety did like a big article about the making of this movie and what they've gone through since, and hopefully it does some work, because the movie doesn't work without them. So I mean, they are they're the selling point. I mean, part of that article, I remember that part about the premiere. They also were they didn't pay for them to go to the Sundance Film Festival when it was there. It was they got the shaft like big time. Like I think Michael C. Williams said that like while there's posters, so they had like the initial poster with like Heather Donahue's face on it, and then they had like the missing one that had all three of their faces on it, and they were used as billboards to promote the movie. And he said that like during that whole time, there's billboards of his face. All the movies like super popular that summer, and he's still working at a furniture store, not making that much money. So I think they are just coming to a point where they have accepted, the impact of the movie, but because they had to live with it in a very different way than anyone else. And it's unfortunate. I hope Lionsgate does the right thing, because I really can't tell if they are, because they haven't really said much about them wanting a bigger piece of the profits from this movie. I mean, they deserve more than a fucking fruit basket.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Crazy.
Because one of the reasons why I think this movie works so well, you had said it's because of them, but really you can take away any of the like supernatural portions of it. All right. And you can make this movie about three people lost in the woods and how they turn on each other and then how they have to lean on each other again. And you feel that you go through that journey with them. And they do such a great job of making you feel what that would actually be like to be in those woods and lost. And it is just so sad the way that they were ultimately treated.
Yeah, I agree. So Jackson, was this your first time seeing this?
Oh no, but
okay.
I was thinking when you were recounting your experience with it, how different mine was from yours, at least this time around. So one of those ones that I saw early enough that I can't really pinpoint when that first watch would have been. Like, best I could do would be like late preteens, early teen years. And this was a movie that, although I wasn't there to experience the marketing campaign, it was notorious throughout my childhood. Like I said, it was only a few years old when I was, coming around. I always loved horror movies and ghost stories in general. So me and my friends that shared that enthusiasm were aware of the Blair Witch and the movie without even having seen it. Like some older brothers and older friends, would pass down the story, and we always thought it was real. We didn't really understand the nuances of it, of the marketing and stuff. We just knew that, there's this movie out there about these three people that went missing and it's about a witch and all that. So the hype was pretty high when I did first see it, and I've always loved this movie. It did freak me out on that first watch, but I've kind of grown more and more used to it over the years, and kind of like went a long time without seeing it, and then I watched it in anticipation of the sequel in, was it 2016 that Blair Witch came out? Was it that long ago? Which I actually have a soft spot for that movie. I really like the lore that it adds.
It's better than the second one for sure.
I wanted to pitch that to you guys later. I'll get back to that. But actually, I had not seen this movie that long ago. Like, I want to say it was in 2023 or at least 2022, maybe late. So when we decided we were going to watch this one today, I was not really feeling like the rewatch. I actually debated even if I was even going to throw it on again, because I'm pretty familiar with it and I'd seen it not that long ago. So I threw it on, was kind of just taking notes and like literally updating my letterbox, like not really paying attention, like, bad movie etiquette. But then the more I let the movie play out, the more invested I got, and like actually like gave it the time of day, and like kind of remembered like how special this movie was. And at the end of it, like, was pretty dialed in until the end. It sucked me right back in, and I forgot how much like I loved this movie for like the creativity behind it and how they're able to scare with virtually showing nothing. And I just kept thinking, like, I can't think of a movie that's done what this movie does as successfully since. Like, I think the only other found footage movie that I've really held a candle to in relation to Blair Witch has been the first couple Paranormal Activity movies, and I still don't even think that they've found the success that this movie did with as little as they had to work with, or that they chose to work with anyway. And it's still all these years later such a marvel at how they were able to make it so successful on literally nothing, and I just find it so impressive. Anyway, it was a great rewatch. I'm glad I decided to actually pay attention, but and it still creeps me out to this day. Like, this was the first time I think I ever watched it with subtitles. I don't know how I let it go that long, but even some of the subtitles added to that experience with some things that I never really caught on to before. Like on their third or fourth night, when you hear the subtitles were saying like children giggling, and like that's when I actually for the first time heard child laughter out in the woods, and I was like, oh my god, I've never picked up on that detail before. And it's just some of the things that the characters were yelling off in the distance as the movie got in later that I never really heard concretely before, just added to that experience. So it was, all these years later, and I was still finding new things to appreciate about it, and couldn't really ask for more from a movie. So yeah.
I mean, I'm glad. Like, it was interesting watching it now because I remember when I was younger and I saw it in theaters, there was things that the characters did that were like, I still have a group of friends that don't like it. Like, they're like, if I want to watch like people argue for an hour and 20 minutes, like that's what they felt the movie was. They're like, it's just like they just yelled at each other for an hour and 20 minutes. And I was like, but yeah, I mean, look at it now, that is a natural reaction. That's what you would do in a situation like that when you're growing that more frustrated and scared because you're like, you're lost and all that. But I do remember I was younger. I remember Heather Donahue in particular when I was younger. I remember being annoyed by how she was presented in the movie.
I agree. I felt that too.
And I feel bad now because it's interesting how much of my viewing of the movie changed after reading more about them recently and what they went through, what making it and after. Because Joshua Leonard said Heather got the brunt of criticism because so many people couldn't separate the fact that, like, yeah, they were using their real names, but they weren't really them. And so, like, a lot of people that watched the movie, when they saw her, they just saw the annoying girl that, like, you know, knew where she was going the entire time, and like she was the one that was in charge, and like, you know, I know exactly where we are. We're not lost. And you know, he said, unfortunately, she got labeled kind of as like being kind of like a bitch in the movie rather than, you know, they weren't looking at someone that was just playing a part or a role. And he said, unfortunately, she got the brunt of a lot of that criticism. And then watching it now, I didn't really view her that way this time.
No, like, not at all.
She was also in a very, you know, she's also scared, and she wants to be like the leader of the group and trying to maintain like, hey, we're not lost. I know exactly what we're doing. Just want to freak them out until, you know, it becomes obvious that she clearly doesn't know where they're going and that they're lost. Yeah. And you know, she should probably share that with the group. But yeah, I didn't think of her that way this time, and I did a lot when I was younger when I saw it. But it's interesting how that changes when you get older.
Right. I see her really as a very sympathetic character because I understand her motivations the entire time. Even when she's doing things that I don't agree with, I still understand why she's doing them. And I think it really helps to have that scene. If you look at, you know, Dean's background there, the one where she's looking into the camera and she really like lays it all out and goes like, this is my fault. Like,
takes the credit.
Yeah. I thought I could do this. I couldn't. But really, if you were to make Josh or Mike the leader of that situation either, they're not going to fare any better than she does. You know, they were never going. No one in that position could win. They were
no. I think her character is really great. I really love her part in the movie. I love that it's like kind of her project, right? She's got these other guys helping her out, but it's her project. She's the one who will never put the camera down. You know, she's the one that wants to catch everything on footage. And like, they just get so frustrated with that because they just wanted to get in, do the job and get out. But the whole thing's the project to her, right? The whole thing is. And so I love like her drive for it. But then, that turns into like, I know where we're going. It's fine. It's totally okay. And then she doesn't. So that, it's really crucial that famous close-up of her face, great speech, but also shows us that, you know, she in her moment by herself, she's just admitting to the camera, this is all my fault. Mike threw the map in the water, but that didn't matter. I didn't know where I was going.
Fucking Mike.
I love that sequence in this movie, man.
It's so good.
It is so good.
I think when you talk about it being like a movie that's arguing for an hour and 20 minutes, I think it's more nuanced than that, because it's not just like, oh, these two people hate each other and they argue the whole time, or, you know, this person's always on this person's side. I think it rotates around a lot throughout the movie. Who's most pissed at someone, you know? So there's more to it than that. Sometimes one character has the other character's back because they have to, you know, they need to support that one, but then switches, you know, then is mad at them later. And I really like how it plays out that way, how it just rotates around with who's the most mad at who.
Right. Well, and it's very human too. You have so much time of Heather and Mike arguing with each other, and Josh is just kind of like the middle guy with their arguing,
the moderator.
For the most part. And then when it's just Heather and Mike later, they're like leaning on each other for support, because that's what they have.
Mm-hmm.
They all kind of switch. And I also, the whole throwing away the map thing, completely understood it. I mean, I didn't agree with it, but I completely understood it, because at this point she's been in charge, she's had the map, and she's like, she knows exactly where they're going. And he's like, you know what, she's had this thing forever, we've been lost days now, like the map is useless. And you're also, I mean, there has to be a sense of like a little bit of cabin fever, just being isolated in the woods together. And so I totally understood what he did. I mean, like the kind of like uncontrollable cackling laughter about him doing it.
My favorite acted part in the movie is Mike like just breaking down laughing, and he goes, I kicked that fucker in the creek. And then
to the creek.
Heather is so like euphoric to not be at like to be blamed for something, I think, for a moment, that her
that
reaction,
point,
how viscerally
Yeah.
angry she is at him. You can tell she really takes advantage of not being the bad guy in the scenario for finally. And I love too how like she calls him out and like, how could you be such a fucking asshole? Like she really gives it her all in that moment. Like I think, that aside, like once they get out in the woods, that's probably my favorite sequence, at least acting wise, in the movie. But I really, really love and noticed it probably more than any other watch this time around, how much the interviews they do before they go on their trek add to the setup of this movie. Because again, like you don't see anything, 25-year-old spoiler alert for those that haven't seen it yet. There's not much visually to be afraid of in this movie, but it's what the locals, how they present and set up this fear, what they do know of the Blair Witch, that makes what they experience in the woods that much scarier. And I really, really appreciate that they decided to include that instead of just, going into the woods on, from minute one.
Right. Well, this wouldn't, I don't think it would have worked at all without those interviews at the beginning. Cause like the movie ends, why is he staring at the wall? Why are we hearing kids laughing? Why are we, the different sounds, the artifacts that they're finding out there, none of that makes any sense if not for those establishing interviews.
Right. Yeah, totally. Like Mike staring at the wall is almost nothing if you don't have all that setup, but then you have all that setup at the beginning and it hits so hard. It's basically the only thing you get to see. You're like barely seeing something. It's the only thing you get to see. And I just like how shocked I was, how much that like on the first watch, still being kind of afraid of watching horror movies, how that like scared me. Just a guy in the corner facing the corner, just because of all the stories that were told ahead of time. And it's like just seeing it just, it really gets you. It's such a good build to that one thing you will see, just like hitting a home run.
Yeah. And it's also important to like to get to care about them too, like in a sense, like seeing what it was like before things get a bit out of control. And I also like for Heather too, when they're getting mad at her and she didn't, I think it's Josh is wondering why she's still filming, and she kind of like breaks and said like, because this is all I have left. And like you kind of feel like you actually feel like that is now this is always a big issue for me with found footage movies, because I don't think any one of us would just keep recording while this is all going on. And it's hard for me sometimes to suspend that disbelief. Like, why are they still filming? There'd be the cameras would have been ditched like a long time ago, but at least for the sake of the movie and the character, they make it make sense for her to want to keep documenting what they're doing. So, I mean, that one line alone sold it for me on like why she keeps it going up until, the point that she can't. So.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of found footage movies where they don't even give us that. So you're like, why are you filming this? That makes no sense. But at least we have some of her motivation in there. And it's all very this is a totally like character driven movie. Like eventually they're stuck because of the plot, but the reason that they're out there, all the things that they're doing while they are there, it is so character driven that we just sort of accept it. Because like that's who she is as a person. I've come to, and keep filming.
And I think we can accept it because of how good they are and how like locked in they are to their characters, right? Like it is basically improv from them. Like basically there's not like a script. They were given secret directions. I'm sure like everyone's heard of this, but they were given like secret directions on set. Like they would, not set, in the woods. They'd be in the woods and they'd go to a location that they were told to go to. They'd pick up an instruction for the day, and it could be very detailed. It could be like, do this, or it could be very broad. It could be like, you're upset today. And they just have to go with that and make it up. And I'm so impressed with like how much I get their characters throughout this, how much I like understand their decisions when they're just kind of out there making it up. So like it is, the whole talk is about, is it real? Is it not? I mean, it's not real, but it is kind of, like they threw these people into the woods. They left them. All the filming is done by these actors holding these cameras, and they're just leaving them out there to experience whatever it is. They're like in this in between where they're like acting, but also surviving out there. They're actually wet. They're actually, like tired. Like these are things that are actually happening to them, and they're still they're still trying to act and be that character. So yeah, when Mike like talks about the map, like that's his decision. Like that was Mike's decision. I don't think he was given that direction. I think I heard that was his choice. And the directors were like, "Fuck yeah, that's exactly why we hired you. That is the stuff we want. Yes,
we're not going to pay you for it, but
yeah, we won't pay you for it.
You'll get nothing for it, but hell yeah, you destroyed the map. That is genius.
Psychological warfare at that point. Like,
yes.
Like,
exactly. It just works. It works for Mike. He's blown up so many times, just like he's been calm and then just escalated to like his fuse just being lit. He's yelling and screaming in the woods. So it just makes sense that at one point he would just be like, stupid map, and just kick it into the wall.
No one's looking.
Yeah, their anger and frustration with each other feels so real, probably because it was. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it seems like at that point it might have been a little real at that time of filming. Like there's another scene where Josh is starting to lose it, and I think he has the camera on Heather, and he's like saying like, this is your motivation, like you're lost in the woods, and he's like,
no one's here to help you.
No one's here to help you, and like that's just so like
awesome.
You can feel her breaking down, and he's breaking down too. That was really, like I said, all the character stuff is what I appreciated more this time around. Like just watching them unravel for a good hour. I mean, it was actually scarier than some of the. I mean, I know there is things that were scary-ish in the movie, and you're right. Watching it in the right atmosphere helps a lot. Watching it alone in the dark. I mean, I did that with the first Paranormal Activity because I know people that saw that in theaters. And people saw that in theaters. They were like, it wasn't that scary, and I was like, well, I watched it alone in my room in the dark, and
that'd be freaky as hell.
Yeah, I was pretty scared. So I think that element. I mean, seeing this at the time in 1999, a packed movie theater with a lot of people that thought they were going to see the scariest movie ever made, because that's how sometimes marketing can do that. There are people that were laughing at stuff they probably shouldn't have been laughing at, and that kind of kills the vibe that the movie's trying to give you. And I know by the time it was over, there was definitely some moans and groans because it just abruptly ends right when it's getting good. So I know that was I know that was a complaint too when we saw it, but I am happy to have to view it in a different way now. Like the character work in the movie is just really, really good, and just knowing that you're right, they improvise most of that or all of it, just giving kind of like basic direction about like the legend and the mythology, what they're going to be talking about, and just kind of just putting them out there and just go and riff. I mean that's why they definitely deserve a lot more credit than they got. For sure.
Well, and it's interesting too that this movie is only like an hour and 18 minutes. It is a very short movie, but I thought I read somewhere that the original cut that was shown was like 2.5 hours.
Oh boy.
So like,
that would have been too long.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Like that's so much, and I'm sure it's just more of them arguing in the woods together, and that I think would have become tiresome. But this, I thought, it didn't feel too short. It ends abruptly, but I think if you show any more than what you show, it loses effect. All right. Because when you show something that's supernatural in any way, I think it's a lot easier for people to go, that's not real.
Right,
I know
exactly.
That's not real. That
it loses the allure.
Yeah.
Which is what I love about the sequel, though. I love that it does give us an actual look at the creature, the witch, whatever it ends up being. I love that this one doesn't, and I love that the sequel does abide and relent and show us that, especially the chase sequence through the house is awesome. The movie, I think, overall is like subpar compared to this one, but when we get there to the house and we see what like the actual entity, then it picks up, and I really, really love it for that. But yeah, I agree with you absolutely, Alex. Like if it had went there and shown it, then it takes all the illusion away.
That's what a sequel's for. Like we on our podcast, we cover franchises. We talk a lot about the deep sequels in franchises. They're not to be good movies. That's not what a sequel needs to be. A sequel just needs to give fans stuff that they want to see. That's what a sequel's for.
We need Blair Witch in space.
Yes.
Eventually we get to space.
I would actually love a prequel to this movie. I think that would be really cool. I don't know if underground. I don't know. I mean, it would have to be executed pretty perfectly. I don't know if it would jeopardize the originality of this one, but I just think the story of like the origin of the Blair Witch and like, you know, the children going missing in Burkittsville, if it was handled by like Robert Eggers or something, I would be like, dude, show me that. That would be really, really cool. Someone that's going to like really pay attention to the feel and focus and era where all this takes place, or as the setup is. I think that'd be really, really cool.
I would like maybe some vignettes that like show you some of the stories that that we got like during the interviews.
Okay,
that would be kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know if I want like full movie, but maybe like a little like anthology or something. That
okay, cool. Just something. I think there's a lot of fertile ground there.
What's the one story that the lady's telling when she's holding her kid and like the kid's getting like kind of scared? She's like, "Oh, you have to tell me a story that's not true."
So
like, it's
awesome.
Totally true. It's totally true.
So like, genuinely acted. Like that does not feel like someone reciting lines. That feels like they were actually out in Burkittsville and talking to the locals about like, which maybe that was the case. I don't know if the Blair Witch existed outside of this movie, but that felt so authentic. All the people they interviewed seemed so authentic, and just that subtle detail of the little girl trying to get her mom to stop telling the story. Like, how do you direct like a 3-year-old girl to do that so genuinely? I don't understand, but such a great detail.
I wonder if half of that was just luck, though. Like maybe
I think it was
the little girl just reacted that way,
scared.
and they were just like,
that was luck.
Yeah.
I think that was luck.
That's pretty sweet because it adds a lot.
Yeah, I did read that some of them were actors and some of them weren't, but I don't really think the Blair Witch legend is like, I don't think that exists there.
Okay.
I thought the directors made it up. Yeah, I think the directors made it up. So then I'm not sure because it sounded like they were talking about Blair Witch with kind of all of them, but maybe it was kind of edited together in a way that they were talking about something else with some of the locals, and maybe they were able to fit it in. I don't know. I just heard that
would make sense.
Like, some of them were actors and some of them weren't, and the 3 like main actors weren't really told who was going to be acting and who wasn't, just told who to go talk to.
And then all these conspiracy theory nuts descending on Burkittsville after this movie came out probably was like, like please get out of our town. Like, I wonder if it's like a blessing and a curse that like this movie is like set there, and then like of course there's going to be a bunch of people that are like, no, like the legend's like real, man. They like try to say it wasn't, but like there has to be people that still like believe this deeply. And I mean, it has to have been so much unwanted attention at the time, especially when the movie first came out.
Well, here Wikipedia says that the total population of Burkittsville is 142 as of 2020.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So amazing. I guarantee you all 142
of those people hate
this movie.
Are all bad.
Probably because all their ancestors were led into the woods and killed.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's probably why.
Oh man,
how cool though would it? Sorry,
go ahead, man. No,
I was gonna say how cool. Like, just not an actual question, but how cool would like a Blair Witch inspired Airbnb experience be, like over in the Maryland woods? Like, that would be so freaky.
Man, which one of the Airbnb experience are you trying to have? just frighten the entire weekend. Yeah. Did you guys have a scene that you thought that stood out as like the scariest if you had to pick one?
Scariest, it for me would probably be one of the night scenes. You know, you can kind of take any of them where you wake up, because like, so growing up I was in Scouts, you know, Tiger to Eagle all the way through. So I've done a lot of camping, and I know that feeling of waking up, hearing something. Now clearly I didn't actually hear anything, okay, but everyone in the tent is you know, they're so sure that they heard something, and you don't want to go out there, but then you do kind of want to go out there because you want to know what's going on, and not being able to see anything. You know, night is just, you know, daytime but black. Like it's everything that's there at night is also there during the day, but you can't see it, so everything is scarier. Okay. It's that unknown. And so it's got to be one of those scenes. It's got to be one of those, like, knowing that during the day I saw this, okay, but everything is so distorted at night because you're seeing it in half lights, and you know, it's like it all feels like half truths that you're looking at.
Your mind's playing tricks on you.
Yeah, that's the scariest.
Yeah, like my number one scariest is definitely just Mike in the corner. Like that just hit me really hard when I watched it. It just like was the thing that was
pretty
burned
classic
into my...
image, I think. Too,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's the classic image. It was like burned into my mind. So
The
that
black and
that's
white.
like, yeah, the black and
That's
white.
that.
That's the number one. But aside from that, it is like that one of those times at night when they just kind of wake up, turn on the camera, and it's the giggling. It's the kids giggling. That whole sequence, because
Kids
I
are
think
scary.
Yeah, kids are
Especially
scary.
in the woods.
Kids are fucking creepy.
Yeah. But that's when like it's already happened. Like they've already heard voices in the night a couple nights. This is like the third night or something, and the tent starts to kind of be rustled, and that's where they just book it. You know, that's where they just
that's the scene I was gonna say. Yes,
it's so scary because like also you have like a moment where Heather's just like, "What's that? What is that?" And she turns her camera. And you can't see anything. Like you just you're trying to look at every single tree and every single like gap in between the trees and find anything, and you see nothing. And that's like even more terrifying.
And
you know,
totally buy her terror, right? You feel like she's
Yeah.
seen something in the woods that we can't see, and she is genuinely terrified. That was the scene that I was gonna say too, Dean, is when they book it from the tent after the giggling and her reaction, and the thought that like maybe Mike's gonna run too far from her and she's gonna be alone in the woods. Oh my god, like I would just literally die in that moment. I would die of fright. I couldn't do that.
Well, speaking of being alone, there's a great scene after one of the night scenes. They get back in the tent and she says to Mike, she's like, "Don't fall asleep. Please don't fall asleep."
Yeah, he's like, I can't fall asleep.
He's like, there's no way I can fall asleep after that. But just like the fear in her voice of, if you fall asleep, I'm alone in this. You're there, but I'm alone.
That's a great point, Alex. Actually, I think a thing that also really does this movie a favor is only having 3 of them, because as soon as one of them goes for whatever circumstances, even if it's just out of view, nothing sinister involved, there's only 2. And when there's 2, it means only one person has to go before every party is alone. And if there's too many people, if there's 5 cast members in this movie, it's almost like too many to be like as scared as you would be if there was just 3. It's too close to being alone. And that when Josh inevitably, ends up missing, it's just them. And at any moment they could end up alone. And that is truly terrifying.
Yeah, that's what gets me. Once Josh goes missing, I felt that. And then like all the night scenes are pretty good, but just hearing Josh like yelling off in the distance and that's what they hear. There's no way I couldn't put myself in the situation. Like, what if you heard one of your friends that after they've gone missing in a situation like that,
right?
And do you run out and look for them? Like what you kind of do?
How do you even know it's him, right?
Yeah, right. That one got to me. And one of them, another one that actually took place during the day, is when they've been doing all that walking, and then they realize that they've ended up back at the same place where they the same place, and like that would just break me mentally. I'd be like, all right, fuck it. I mean, like, we're like in some weird time loop. We were just here. We walked in like this direction. Like, how do we end up back here? And their reactions to it are they are genuinely like frightened by the fact that they are back in this spot after walking that long, trying to get
made no progress. Night is falling.
Heather keeps repeating, she's like, it's not the same log. It can't be. It's not the same log. And then she gets closer and she zooms in on the log. She goes, it's the same log.
And she's like weeping.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Totally. Yeah. It's just that there was also no like incident that would have turned them around. Like, we didn't see anything like that. Like they have just been walking in the same direction south for whatever 16 hours or whatever they say, and they're just back at this. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. And I love that. That's where that is left. We don't know anything else about that except that it makes no sense. They were going south for 16 hours and ended back at the same tree.
Wait, how they figure out how to go east or west the next time? And he's like, wait, which one's the back one? He's like, the wicked witch in the east and the wicked witch in the west. And then that was great.
It was so good.
Also, the thing about Josh going missing too is there's no buildup. They're together 1 minute, and then the next morning he's just gone.
Right.
That was another thing that really got me about that. It's like there is no like, oh, this is someone definitely is going to go missing in this next shot, and it's not.
No, and you don't hear him, like, you don't hear him dragged off. There's nothing. They just wake up. He's gone. The only sort of clue when you like think back on the movie is, oh, his stuff had the slime on it. Okay, so
he was targeted.
He got marked. Yeah.
I think I think kind of like jumping into it, like things happening when we don't expect it, is what makes like the nighttime scenes kind of the best ones, because they're just turning on the camera in the middle of their panic. Like, so we have to catch up. We have to catch up to like a panic state. So it's different than a tension building and you getting scared because the tension's building. It's like cameras turned on, everyone's at 100%, and you feel panic getting up to that. And so as soon as they're in the tent or looking around or listening to voices, I already just like, I'm up there. I just joined them right away and went from 0 all the way to panic. So I think that's why they're also really effective.
Well, and I think part of that too is like that's how it is when you wake up and like immediately you're in the situation. So when the camera turns on, it's like us waking up into the panic, like because you're not all going to wake up at the same time. And so the first person has already woken up, and now we're waking up too, and we're trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
Is there any consensus as to what part of Josh was left outside the tent? Because I've always wondered what I think it is, and it's
I
just
couldn't tell what it was.
Mess.
Teeth?
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought it was teeth, but they look big.
Well, yeah, and there's I feel like too much of a gooey mass in the center for it had to be something. I guess I was kind of thinking it was a tongue, but
I thought it was teeth and tongue.
Yeah,
Wikipedia says in his shirts it's tongue, a finger, and some teeth and hair.
Okay.
I didn't see the finger.
I didn't see a finger. Actually, I couldn't tell what it was. I just saw like a bloody gooey mess, and that was enough.
Yeah. That is enough to be scary.
You had mentioned scariest scenes, but this was probably my favorite scene of Heather finding it and not telling Mike.
Yeah, I was going to ask you why do you think why she didn't tell him?
Didn't want to make
because that can only go worse.
Yeah.
Because at least he can still maybe try and stay like rational minded in this. Like she knows that she's toast at this point. Like it's over for her. But maybe Mike can still lead them to salvation. But when she's putting on her pack, excuse me, and just like lending to like how real everything feels. She's putting on her pack and it gets caught in her hair, and like she's freaking out. She goes, here, my pack's caught in my hair, and he helps her out. Yeah. And she's just like, I'm okay, everything's fine, but everything's building up right now. It's just I didn't see teeth and a tongue. That definitely didn't happen.
Every part of it, like of the entire remains, finding the remains, even just from right at the beginning when she just like, it's just outside the tent, like a fucking Amazon package was delivered.
Just like in a bundle.
Yeah. She's like, I didn't order anything. And she picks it up and she's like, I'm just gonna move it. I'm just gonna move this. It like just doesn't want it in front of the tent. And I think that's that makes it even more scary too, that she's just like, this can't be here. We'll put it over there. And then later goes to it and later looks in it. And then the panic after, her trying to keep it together, but like clearly, I'm just going to put on my gloves. Like, just got to get the gloves on. Just got to get the gloves. Like
anything but that.
Yeah, exactly. Washing her hands. Okay. Yeah. Clean. And you can just see her fingers are so wrinkled. She's been washing them so much. It's just like that panic that she brings through is so good in that moment. And then just trying to keep it from Mike is she's acting wonderfully in this movie. She's so great in this movie.
Yeah. And then
you think that's why Josh might be like screaming like that, then like that is what was happening to him. That is another thing that makes that
right.
True.
Am I next?
I would have to go back and look. I don't really remember, but there is like a strip of what looks like flannel, like clothing that ties together. That's from Josh's clothes.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I got a question for you guys. It's something I have never really pondered myself until this watch, but I just wanted to see if you guys agree, if there's more insight available. But so remember early in the film, like once they actually start off on their trek and they get to the two guys fishing at Coffin Rock, which according to the lore, some weird witchcraft type shit happened there. And here's these two locals fishing, seemingly unaffected. So I guess it's kind of a two-parter, and it's why do you think, like, what's different about our group of characters that are caught under like the witch's spell versus these people who are also out in the woods? And is there a moment that seals their fate where like there's no going back, we're now going to be dealing with this, or was it always going to be happening as soon as they got into the woods, in your opinion?
Oh, that's interesting. How do you think about that?
Okay, so were they for sure fishing in the same spot that the bodies were
I believe so. I think they're at Coffin or like really close. In any case, they're in the woods at least to some degree. So I was always wondering, like, why are they able to just kind of freely fish in the woods, or is there a barrier?
So I think, to me, it's like the cockiness of it too, of not believing in the stories or not taking caution in the stories and still going.
I like
into
that.
The woods.
I like that answer.
Yeah, because there are a lot of the interviews are people who say, yes, I believe it. No, I'm not going in there.
I ain't going up there. Yeah.
I think that's right, because first night nothing happens. You know, they're camping in the first night and act like they mention nothing happened to the first night. And I think it's that going deeper. It's that like continuing to pursue it. Yeah, the continuing to pursue it, continuing to film it, all of that, I think is like pushing too far, and that's why the forest dealt with them. I kind of forgot that they don't really tell you what happened. I had thought that they like knocked over one of those rocks or something and like couldn't fix something back together, like just like messed something up.
Right.
But they don't do that. Like it's just, there really is nothing to
concrete
explain
answer.
why it's them. Yeah.
Well, that's isn't there a line? Sorry, isn't there a line where they say, you knocked over the rocks?
Oh, it was you took took something. Yeah,
you took something.
Yeah.
And we didn't. Yeah. We never saw that.
Right. No, that's true.
So it could have been. That was my other thing too. Is it could have been whatever they took.
Well, that's the moment actually that I was getting to with this question, because I was doing some like quick reading afterwards, and like someone on Reddit, there's a line that Heather says where she's trying to recall what, I can't remember the character's name, Mary something, like the sketchy older woman that they're talking to in the interviews.
Yeah.
And we don't hear the character of Mary, if that is her name, say this, but Heather's trying to recall what she said about a line about touching or piles of rocks or whatever. And then some whiz on Reddit found like the biblical verse that she was trying to recall. Okay. And it said something along the lines of like, it's from Genesis, and it was like chapter 31, verse 52 or something. And it says something along the lines of like, I shall not pass your rocks and like harm you, and you shall not do the same upon me. And so I think like that is highlighting that moment where they intentionally or like unintentionally like touch the rocks in particular. Like that is the moment when, okay, now there's no going back. And I thought that was kind of a cool, nothing I'd ever paid attention to on any previous watches, but a cool little theory. And I like too that they keep it ambiguous, that nobody's pointing at it and being like, this is what happened, but just something that you can kind of chew on as maybe being the reason. But I agree too. It's their hubris and going deeper and deeper and not giving the witch, I guess, their due attention and fear is kind of like what invites her to start fucking with them, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard to tell how much of the legend they actually like believe before they set out to go do the documentary. Like if it's just like a fun, like kind of fun film project for particularly Heather and them, or if it's something that they think has some credence to it or not. And
I don't think they believe in it at all, and that's why they're out there.
Yeah,
at least the guys. I don't think Mike or Josh believe in it until things start happening. Heather maybe, but I don't think the guys do.
Yeah, and I think anytime that there's like a noise and she goes to get the camera to turn it on, it's like, oh, this will just make it better. This will just make the footage. I don't think she's really like, I'm gonna capture some witch activity here. It's just like, well, I'm gonna, whatever I capture, I'm gonna be able to work into this documentary.
Yeah. I just remember when there was one point where they were arguing, and like it's Heather and Mike, and I think she bites him at one point. And then it cuts and she's like apologizing, I'm sorry, if I hurt you, he's like, no, it's okay. Like I do like, that's another example of how it goes back and forth between like this intense anger to being like, yo, we only have each other, let's like calm down.
I also never noticed that until Mike says later they get in another tussle and he goes, if you bite me again, I'm gonna throw you in the It's like, again, when did I miss this? I had a good laugh. I was like, when was she biting him? Like,
yeah. I mean, kudos to all three of those performers, man. They really give it 100%.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
There's like certain lines in the movie where I'm just thinking like, is that them really in the woods, like losing it a bit, like just getting really mad? And it's part, but they're told to film everything, right? So it's part of the footage. Like I know there's a time where Heather's like really mad that her like boots are wet, that her feet are wet, and they're laughing at her, and she's like, she thinks it's a, she's like, it's not funny. Like, my boots are wet. It's not funny. And like, they had like a safe word out there that they could say and someone would come in and help, but they were also told don't use it, because as soon as that breaks, as soon as you're out of like, as soon as we save you, your character's gone, like now you won't have it anymore, you won't be able to do it anymore, so the movie's over. So you have a safe word, but don't use it. And Heather used it at a certain time that sounded similar to that sounded like she was soaking wet and just needed to dry off. And she was like, whatever, I'm an actor. I can get back to that spot. Like I can get myself back there. And she used it and actually was able to like dry off and then get back to it the next day. So I wonder if it was around that time where she's like, it's not funny. I'm soaking wet. This sucks.
I wonder if there's any regrets once you of course they had regrets after. Once they learned that they weren't going to be making a ton of money, but I just wonder if there's any regrets, like in the middle of doing it, like what did I sign up for? Like, it has to like psychologically get you at some point.
Yeah, how long were they out there? Do you remember?
I'm not sure, actually.
So it was like I'm trying to think here. I just read it in a book. I have that book of like best movie year ever. I think it's called, and it's like about 1999. Yeah, so it's got a lot of Blair Witch stuff in it, and I think they were out there for 10 or 16, something double digits, but days. Low. And last day was like October 31st. Like they're out there in October, and like the last day was October 31st, and then they were out of there. But I can't remember exactly how many days it was, but somewhere between like 10 and 15, I think.
Okay, like I would guess that there were quite a few nights where they were thinking like, fuck this, I should not have gotten involved. But during the day you're out there, I bet you they had a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah, they probably did.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, they signed up for it because they wanted to.
At the end of the day, it's a movie. They're not really going missing, right? So like at least there's some kind of safety in what they are like performing. Like, hey, you guys aren't really gonna like abandon us in the woods.
They're definitely told that it's going to be a lot of improv, and they were definitely told that like it's going to be harsh conditions. Like you're going to be upset about it. Whatever you can think is like bad conditions, that's what it's going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you suppose the story is behind that actual building in the middle of the woods that they come across at the end? Because like, movie or not, I'm sure they didn't, with a $750,000 budget, I'm sure they did not construct that there. Something tells me that was just a
they just dressed it up.
Yeah. I think that is it. I think they found it out there and just dressed it up. It is creepy. Yeah, I don't know.
Super creepy.
What actually went on in that basement?
I kept wondering if I would go in there. I mean, I know like I could hear my buddy like yelling, but I'm like, oh, he might be a Garner. It might be a Garner by now, dude.
I was reading what's cool about that scene too is that they had Josh screaming and they pre-recorded his voice and just put it out in the woods somewhere. So they were hearing him at the time, but it was just this recording that was somewhere, and they had no idea where it was.
Sounds like he's getting farther away too, the closer they get to the building. And when they're in the building too, it's like he doesn't even sound like he's anywhere in the building at all. It sounds like he's way outside of it, at least to me.
Yeah.
Well, I love that they go all the like Mike goes all the way upstairs and then goes all the way downstairs. Like that just shows you it's
because it feels like he's hearing him from like up there. And he's like, wait, no, he's down. He's down.
No, it's the basement. It's definitely the basement.
Yeah. That scene still plays really well. I mean, like the panic is just getting more and more intense.
I just got chills thinking about it. Like
and then like
I felt it.
The handprints on the wall.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like all that, like you said, all the stuff that we were learning about at the start of the movie, like every little thing that like the locals were talking about, and like what they do in all those interviews, like it all pays off throughout the entire thing. Like you said, the whole standing in the corner thing doesn't pay off as well. Unless you hear them mentioning it in that initial interview. So it's still a creepy thing. Yeah, he's just staying there still, and she's just screaming until like something knocks her down.
Well, yeah, I mean, the last time we saw Mike, he's frantically running through this house.
Yeah,
and then we see him just staring at the wall. You're like, oh fuck, like it's over.
Yep.
Dang.
And then it just ends.
Yeah.
And I mean, Are you guys happy with how it ends? Like,
I was about to ask the same thing.
Absolutely. Honestly, I really am. I don't want to see any more than that. Because like I said before, if you do see more in this type of movie, it all falls apart. All right. You can't show too much for this kind of movie. So it showed me enough. You see him standing in the corner, you think back to that story, and you know what happens.
Yeah.
You don't need more than that.
Yeah, same. I was very happy when the credits rolled, because I beforehand had just, Googled, Blair Witch runtime, just want to know, what I was sitting down and getting in for. And I think when you do that, it says like an hour 30. So when I saw the timer ticking at like 1:17 and we were at this part, I was like, what else is there going to be? Are they going to go back and talk to people? Like, I feel like it ends right here. And so when it went to credits, I was like, oh, good. Like, that is good. I'm happy. I don't know what that Google was, but that is exactly where I want it to end. I want it to be a frantic end. We had such like the best scenes are that, you're just thrown right into it. So it's just like you're all over the place and then boom, camera to the ground, done. Movie over. This is the found footage. Like this is what they found. I don't want to see more. I don't want to see what happened.
Yeah, I don't know how story-wise it would make sense to see more from there. Like, how does the camera move? Why would it be doing that when
just like the witch picks it up? Does does a monologue, then taking it out into the woods.
I've never had an issue with the ending, but like thinking about it, I like that it is abrupt, but I think like there could be a little bit more creativity with like how Heather goes out. Like we do see like clearly something knocks her out from behind and she drops a camera. I think what might have been a little creepier is if she goes in, sees Mike, and then we can tell that something is influencing her to like walk into the other part of the room or something, and like she just sets it down calmly, and like maybe we hear some whispering or some voices. I like maybe that prospect of an ending, but I'm fine with how it does end. It ends on a high note, and I'm sure was probably freaky to theater goers back in the day. But I guess I'm okay with it. I do like how the ending on the sequel is expanded in Blair Witch, not Blair Witch Project 2, not Book of Shadows. I kind of like that we get a little bit more of an explanation, but I think it's okay that it's absent in this movie too. Just again, that's why I appreciate the sequel so much, is that it expands.
Yeah, I think that type of ending that you're talking about, where like they put down the camera and then you see them kind of doing something out of character and you're watching it happen. I do think that is also creepy. I think that plays really well. Yeah. I like when that kind of thing happens.
There's something like Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity kind of does it too, right? When she,
actually, good point.
When she like throws her husband into the camera. Moves it around. I think 1999 me didn't love it because I was like, yo, we're finally cooking now. It's getting good. And then it just ended.
It's over.
And it was just over. I can appreciate it now, though. It is a really chilling, effective ending to just end it that way. And I'm glad it doesn't overstay its welcome, too. An hour 17 is perfect for that kind of movie. I can't imagine a 2.5 hour cut of this.
What was that even? I don't know what they were trying to go for that. It's double the time.
Jesus, there'd be no need for that whatsoever.
Yeah, apparently they had like on very, very early screenings, they had like some walkouts because of a like really even more shaky cam than what you get here. And so I think they cut a ton of that out to make it shorter, so that they would like shorter, quicker, not as much of that shaky camera.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of complaints, people getting motion sickness and vomiting during some screenings of the movie because of the shaky cam and stuff. I had a friend that when we saw it in 99, I didn't see it with him, but I remember he said that he had to sit in the front row because it was sold out. And he said he will never sit in the front row of a movie ever again for that very reason. Because he was looking up at like a shaky screen the entire time was
the worst.
Not ideal.
I mean, this didn't feel like super shaky to me when I was watching it. Like, I feel like if you watched, say, like Cloverfield, I think that was shakier than this.
Yeah. You know what? I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
It never bothered me. And shaky cam is a filmmaking trend that I despise, and it was that I guess maybe I'm just compensating for the fact that I know that it's handheld and they're running through the woods, and maybe I'm just not noticing it, but like it never stood out to me as overly shaky cam anyway.
Well, and because so much of the running is in the dark.
Yeah, that's
so you don't really get sick because it's just black.
Yeah.
I know Jackson spoke about Blair Witch, but have you guys seen Book of Shadows? Did you
I haven't.
So-
I haven't seen any other Blair Witch movie than this one.
So I think I did. Like I have like vague memories of it. Maybe I'm just remembering the trailer from when I was a kid. So I'm not really sure. I can't tell you anything about it other than like even in the trailers, like it looked bad.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, it's made like a real movie. I mean, it's not
Right,
like this.
yeah.
Is it even related really to the first
Well,
one?
it's about these people that are going to basically they've seen the movie The Blair Witch Project, so they're going to like basically do what these kids are doing in this first movie, but like the Blair Witch Project is like a film,
Okay.
and so they're going to go like check out the legend too. But it's bad. But there's some revisionist history where people think this is like a cult classic now and they enjoy it. It seems to happen a lot.
Oddly enough, I did see this when I was really, really young, like on demand TV back like when I was like, I don't know, 11 or 12. And I don't remember enjoying it at all, but I do remember this awesome. The only thing I ever remember from this is there's a great, probably not executed great in hindsight, but memorable at least, of somebody is possessed and they're doing a countdown on their hand and they're breaking their fingers as they count down. And I'm like, that's creepy as fuck. It's like a 12-year-old. All I remember from that movie.
Yeah. And I did like how they didn't really reveal the one that Adam Wingard did, like that it was a Blair Witch movie until they had like a surprise trailer for it at Comic-Con that year, and then revealed that it was a Blair Witch sequel. And it's way better than Book of Shadows. It didn't make a ton of money, but I don't know why it didn't do all that well because I know it got good reviews. But and now they're making this, and now Lionsgate is trying to make another one, which is why the original 3 actors are upset that they said between like the sequels and there's been comic books and games, it's a whole media franchise that's made a ton of money and they haven't really gotten any of that. I know they asked to use Heather Donahue's full name for Blair Witch and she didn't want to sign off on that, and so they couldn't use her full name for it. They had like an initial settlement from when after the first movie came out, but it really wasn't a lot of money, especially considering that this movie made 4,000 times its budget, apparently, by the time it was all said and done.
Oh my god!
Wild. And also Blumhouse is involved in this making of this new Blair Witch 2, or I don't know if it's gonna be like a sequel or a reboot or what they're doing with it.
What are they calling this?
And they've been really movies have been really choosy lately with what they're called, like Twisters is a sequel or a reboot. It's
right.
Like the director for Twisters said, like, oh, we figured out a new science. It's not a sequel. It's not a reboot. I was like, well, what is it then? It's like it's its own thing.
Yeah, the same but not. It's the same but different.
But I don't know. How do you guys feel about seeing more from this, or especially with Blumhouse being behind it?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to see that. I haven't seen any other ones, so I definitely want to watch through them, even if the next one is garbage. Still want to watch that and watch the 2016 one. So I don't know. Like it seems we like franchises, so we like them to go on. We like them to go on.
Just keep going.
Yeah,
honestly,
keeping a show alive. You need them.
I came on expecting that you guys had seen them all for some reason. I don't know why, but there's some terrifying sequences in the 2016 one. Just a heads up. I actually really like when it gets scary, which I like it for.
I tried playing the video game. Actually, this was 4 years ago. Something like that. Video and game. I was in. So this is funny. Our air conditioning had gone out at our house, and so we were staying with. And it was going to be like a month before they could get out to replace our air conditioner. And it was summertime, so hot, like we could not survive in our house. Mm-hmm. So we moved into my parents' basement for a month. And I was home one day in the basement playing the game. No. And I got maybe an hour in before I could feel my heart pounding. And I'm like, this is not good for me. I gotta turn this off. Nope, and I didn't go back.
This would make for a really scary video game. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Your dark room right now, Jackson, especially.
Right. It's been a freaky recording experience. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not turning any lights off. I'm gonna wait upstairs in my bedroom tonight. Like they're all staying on. I'm going upstairs. I'll probably turn on some sort of comfort show.
Yeah,
And,
for sure.
Yeah, I gotta go right to bed from this, so I'm gonna be
Family Guy. I'm gonna just watch Family
right.
Guy.
Yeah.
When in doubt, Family Guy is a great
Guy.
comfort show if you're scared.
Now, is there a found footage film that you think comes close to how effective this movie was for you guys?
So found footage is really hit or miss for me. But like I think that's true of any subgenre, horror subgenre. You know, there's going to be good movies, there's going to be bad movies. I don't think it being a found footage movie necessarily means that it's going to be bad or it's going to be good. It's just another movie. So there's ones that I like, and I recently watched through the Hell House franchise.
Oh man, I've been wanting to watch those.
And the first one I really like. I think that that's really successful as a found footage movie. It definitely has its like creepy moments. It's probably, to me, creepier than Blair Witch. Maybe not like thinking about it afterwards. Like this one probably has a little more staying power than that one does. But while you're in it and watching it, Hell House is pretty effective. And I honestly I can't think of too many more that I like and I think really work.
Yeah, found footage hasn't been like a big subgenre for me, really. I've watched a few here and there. I think nothing has really come close to the Blair Witch. I guess Paranormal Activity, like the first one, does create a type of mood for sure. That is that freaked me out when I watched that for the first time. So I think that one, is maybe the closest. I do like M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit.
That is a found footage film.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's basically, it's a found footage film. I really like that movie, and especially like Shyamalan kind of going back to a small budget, going back to like it's really on the line. Like I think he used his own money to like fund it. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I have to make a good movie. Like I can't just rely on that I'm a big name. And I do like that movie quite a bit. I think there's some really terrifying scenes that he can create, that he's good at creating. So those are kind of the two that come to my mind.
Yeah, I have one more, and I think, to me, honestly, it is. I can't believe I didn't think about it before. The scariest one that I've watched, and it gets terrible reviews. I don't know why. Maybe because the acting isn't that great. But after Paranormal Activity comes out, which what year was that? Do you remember?
2007.
Yes. Okay, somewhere right in there. Yeah. So 2009, we get a movie called Paranormal Entity, capitalizing off of the Paranormal Activity. That has a couple of scenes in it that have stuck with me forever. Especially the last scene. The last thing that you see in that movie is so fucked up that that's like in there. I'll never be able to get that out of my head. So it's on Tubi. It looks like Paranormal Entity. That one I recommend. I thought that was really good and creepy.
So Paranormal Activity is notwithstanding, because that's like, I think the easiest example to go for. It's true to like, especially the first one. The third one I always thought was really creepy too, but
that scene with the sheet.
Ugh. Yeah. Such a great effect. So simple, but so good. But branching to a different strain of horror here, I think my favorite found footage horror movie that I've seen, probably aside from this, is the Spanish original that came before quarantine, Wreck. That movie is awesome. Very different, different blend of horror, but the final scene in that movie too is terrifying.
Yeah, I've been told a bunch of times to watch Wreck. I haven't actually watched it yet. I gotta watch
awesome.
That.
Yeah, it's better than Quarantine. I actually do like Quarantine, but it is better.
They made Quarantine literally the year after, like just one of those like shame. They saw a foreign film, they're like, "Oh, let's make this in America," and then and it's the same movie, but Wreck is really, really well done. Yeah, give it a chance. It's freaky shit.
Yeah, I like when found footage movies have gone outside the genre too. Like I think Chronicle is really good. And,
and I like Chronicle.
And The Watch is actually really good too. Like
and The Watch is an awesome found footage movie.
But yeah, I think the first 3 Paranormal Activity movies are solid. Cloverfield, it does it well too for what it is.
It's one of the first movies we covered together, actually.
But yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it was like our 3rd or 4th one that we did.
Yeah,
and then, but yeah, it's definitely is a subgenre that got done to death and got progressively worse.
Yeah.
But like that's like any subgenre that makes money.
True.
Yeah.
So that was bound to happen. It's happened with the slasher films. It happens with this. It happens with possession movies. Like there's always some kind of different. Like they're like, all right, we need to make our Blair Witch. Like every studio wants to make one, and they just make them. I mean, to go to the links that arts and entertainment did at the time is crazy. Yeah, y'all can't take no jobs, dude. You guys are dead. Like, you guys are not. You guys are not alive.
Yeah,
I don't know what
like
you guys
check IMDb. You're dead. That's
you're
the
dead
truth right there. So you can't get a job if you're dead.
Tell your families to shut up too. Like you're dead.
Yeah.
like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't know how long that lasted, but it definitely was there. It definitely was on IMDb that they were dead.
So I'm trying to figure out. Sorry, real quick. Do one of you guys have a kid that's crying? Because I keep hearing. I swear I hear my kid crying. I'm not. Like, I'm not kidding. You've probably seen. Like I'm taking off the headphones, trying to listen. If it's mine upstairs,
no, that's your brain playing tricks on you.
I don't know, man. I'm hearing a kid.
I think I heard it too. I think I heard it too. Yeah.
Man, listen back. It
sounded like it was coming from a dark room.
Yeah, you motherfuckers are never coming back on the show.
Oh, God. Never.
I wish I was kidding about this, but okay.
It only works for Jackson. Jackson's the one sitting completely alone in the dark.
Yeah.
For effect.
I guess, those that aren't watching probably obviously would have no idea, but yeah, it's because I usually, and Gaius too, we try to find a color on our lamps that kind of matches the movie we're watching. And Alex, when you went dark at the beginning of the episode, I was like, no, that is the only one that fits. And so I've committed to it throughout the episode, but it's costing me. I've been looking over my shoulder every few minutes.
You know how many times I've looked at this door throughout our recording? I'm like, I gotta watch this door. Yeah. And the window, like my window over there, the blinds are up like about yay high. So I don't know.
Have you guys seen Long Legs yet? Sorry to get off track, but just because of what you've been saying is making me think of that movie.
Man,
Dean, did you?
I haven't seen it yet. No, Alex has seen it. I haven't seen it yet. It's like my next theater.
Talk about marketing. Maybe like throwing off
neon. I know.
Whoops. Yeah.
Neon. They actually. It's funny because they were saying that Neon's marketing campaign. They thought it was crazy that it's been 25 years since this movie came out, and they compared that marketing campaign to this one and how effective it was. And we talked about when we on our last episode whether or not, I don't know how much like Oz Perkins was involved in how to do the marketing or if it was just all Neon, but it was incredibly smart how they did it. Now it wasn't totally the movie that we got, but I was okay with that because it was still
it worked for me too.
I loved it. That movie so far is like it's my favorite horror movie of the year.
Oh, so easily for me too.
Probably up there with maybe best movie that I've seen so far this year.
Yeah. All right. I guess it's time we get to score the movie now. It's funny. Our last episode, we couldn't score the last movie we talked about.
Nope.
We couldn't score Eyes Wide Shut. We're not there yet. But I think we can score. This one. And I don't know whoever would like to go first.
One of our guests, you guys.
I can go first. I know what it's going to be, and it's just because it had such an impact on me on the schoolyard, talking about it, like a movie I knew so much about without knowing anything about. I didn't know, I'd never seen it, but just like talking about what it is, going to the website and looking at photos and watching interviews, but like too afraid to actually watch the movie. It was just so into my life as a 13-year-old who was just getting into like movies. Just with that, and then actually watching it in a cabin and getting very scared, and then this watch again, this time not being as scared but appreciating more of the dynamic between the three and really liking that, and then still having that final scene hit home. It's just because of all those things wrapped together, it's just a 5 for me. Like it's just one of the big horror movies for me, and I love it. So it's it's a 5 out of 5.
Yeah. So for me, before I rewatched it today, if you would ask me what I thought about it, I'd be like, probably like a 3 out of 5. Like it's from what I remember, a decent movie, fun to like watch with a group of friends. You can mess around with each other afterwards, and it's all part of the experience. But then watching it today, and realizing, like, especially when you watch it alone, how creepy it is. It kind of brought me back to, 8-year-old Alex or 9-year-old Alex, like watching it for the first time, hands, of course I don't cover my eyes anymore, unless I'm watching the Hereditary. Yeah.
yeah.
Valid.
That's valid.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's perfect. I won't go 5 out of 5, but I'm gonna go like 4.5.
Alex took the words right out of my mouth. I felt the same way. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I just wasn't in the setting, like the feel to watch this movie today, and I had to do it like on a whim, and like was pleasantly surprised at how well this movie still holds up, even though I'd seen it like the last couple of years and didn't really need to watch it again. And it's great. Again, I don't think it's perfect, but it's pretty damn near close, and I give it points for being as effective with showing as little as it does. It's got my affection, so 4.5 for me too.
All right, I guess it's me now.
1999
me would have given it like 2.5, 3, because I was, expectations and all that. But today's version of Gas, I would give it a 4 out of 5. Yeah, I really I found myself enjoying it a lot more than I had in the past, and I also I think it's because I just looked at it differently and was really caught up in like the character work in it. I don't think it's the scariest thing ever made. I think that hype kind of can kill a movie like this. But I really enjoyed the acting and stuff, and like that actually got to be more than some of the actual scares in the movie. Like, just putting yourself in a situation where this could be very real. You could be in a position like this with your friends, just lost in the woods somewhere.
That's scary enough.
And then not knowing, like, that fear of like, we're lost, we don't know how to get home. Like, no one knows exactly where we are, and certain situations they might not even know we're here. Like, there's a lot of things about the idea of it that's just pretty scary. And also, it was a good marketing social experiment too. I mean, they said this is like one of the, I think the first movie that they can think of that was primarily focused its marketing on the internet, and like it was able to generate interest that way, and made a ton of money that they need to share with Michael C. Williams and Joshua Leonard and Heather Donahue. Because, like I said, it doesn't work with out any of them. And by the way, I used to have this poster before the movie came out, like on my wall, like right smack dab, like above my TV. Nice. And I had to take it down eventually, because at night her eyes just staring back at me like I was like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm scared to open my eyes. I'm scared to close them.
Pretty much. But yeah, I'm glad I think of it differently now. And like, it's funny that Jackson knows Merck. I think it's one of those people that thinks the movie's overrated, and I probably would agree with him a few years ago. But like, wow. I can't wait to have a conversation with him now. I was like, I think you should, if it's been a while since you watched it, like you should maybe
definitely, maybe watch it alone, like in the try to
simulate your setting,
yeah,
right?
Exactly, like that. Yeah, do yourself the justice.
Yeah. All right, guys. Your podcast. I love listening to it. What do you guys have going on it? Tell everyone about it in case they don't know.
I want to know what you guys are working on right now.
Sure. Yeah. So we're Return, Revenge, Resurrection. We walk through horror franchises. Each episode is another movie in that horror franchise. So we kind of had a theme all summer, and the theme all summer was creature feature. So we started out with Anaconda. And what the next place to go to Anaconda is Lake Placid, because there's a crossover movie.
Whoa,
there's a crossover movie?
I grew up on Lake Placid, man. That's awesome.
Space. In space.
They go to space. The Croc's in space. Yeah, so this summer we started off the summer on Anaconda. Made our way through that. Then we took a little break in the middle from the big snakes and the big crocodiles, and we
reptiles
did the
X. In general.
We did the X franchise. We did just X, Pearl, and Maxine. Nice. So just as a little break. So that's what kind of just dropped. That we just completed that, and then this week coming out is the Lake Placid episode. We're going to start trekking through that giant crocodile. So many movies to go through. Can't wait to get to the crossover. And then at the end of all of our franchises, we have like a little epilogue episode where we talk about the entire franchise. So for this one, we're going to do it with Anaconda and Lake Placid. We're going to talk about all the reptiles in that one.
Cool.
Nice. And then after that, we start our big franchise. So every year we tackle one of the big franchises. So the first year we did Halloween. Last year we did Nightmare. This year we're doing something else.
So we're doing something else. You two are going to be on one of those episodes.
Oh, awesome. I can't wait. I don't
we
even
haven't announced
it
to anybody yet, so nobody knows what the franchise is. But yes, we'll have you guys on for one of those episodes.
We'll talk amongst each other.
Yes.
Okay.
Very excited.
As to not reveal what it is.
It's it's always fun. It's always fun when we do that. We get guests on for each of the movies, and it's a good time.
All right. That's awesome. I actually came up with just a quick question while I'm thinking about it. And I don't know if you guys have covered Alien yet, but with the release of Alien Romulus coming out next month, say how do you guys tackle movies that have new releases for franchises you've already covered? Would you retroactively slide it in and make a post about it, or would you just not bother?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So we've had to do that. Yeah, we've had to do that twice. No.
Okay.
Yeah, you've been on one of them. You've been on the Nun.
Oh yeah, the Nun.
Right. Yes, for the Conjuring. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So that was us sliding that one into the Conjuring because we'd already done it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So we had to do it with the Nun 2, and we had to do it with Exorcist.
Oh boy.
So
poor folks.
so what we'll do is we'll end up watching Alien Romulus probably after our next big franchise is when we'll do an episode on that. And then like right now, Alien is ranked as our number 2 franchise.
I think our number 2 franchise. Yeah, we rank all the franchises we cover. Yeah, so it's ranked as number 2.
Could it change its place in the ranking? Is it going to go above Halloween? No, it's not. I mean, stop. That's just ridiculous.
We'll see.
All right. Could it drop? Yeah, there is a possibility of that movie affecting the entire franchise. So that's always something fun to look forward to, seeing how it affects the entirety of the franchise.
Yeah.
Right on.
So we usually go back and forth picking franchises, but we're kind of planned out for the rest of the year here. We got Crocs, we got Lake Placid, then we got the secret franchise. Then we're probably doing the Alien movie, right after that.
Can't wait to see what you guys are working on next, and can't wait to feature alongside you guys in whatever that episode ends up being.
It'll be really fun. It'll be really fun.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Someone sent me a message asking if I wanted to deep dive Lake Placid and Deep Blue Sea, and I was like, there's not much to deep dive, but I guess if you guys want to.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Yep.
We had a good time.
Lake Placid is a lot of fun. Deep Blue Sea I haven't seen, but
it's the other good. It's the other good shark movie.
Right.
Yeah.
There's like Jaws and then Deep Blue Sea, which is like way down.
I thought you were talking about Sharknado.
I forgot about that. That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, like looking forward to what you guys have in store next. Every time I listen to your show, I'm always, because I was like, when I was developing back to the Blockbuster, I almost created it was going to be a horror movie podcast, and I was like, no, I want to talk about all movies. But then I see shows like yours, like, oh, that would have been fun to just have a horror movie podcast. Which is what we get to experience that like during the months of September and October on this show. At least
our compromise.
It's like all horror the entire time.
Yeah. Well, and then there's sometimes when we watch a movie that's not horror, and we're like, man, it'd be kind of fun to talk about that.
Exactly. Right?
It'd be fun if we had a podcast to talk about.
Nice guys. All right, Jackson, you want to wrap this one up?
Absolutely. Well, Dean and Alex, thanks a lot for joining us on another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. You guys have had the pleasure of going on episode 186, so ever so creeping up to our second 100th anniversary episode, or episode in general, rather. That's coming right around the corner, so stay tuned, guys, for some updates on that. Guys, absolutely, completely recommend from both. I'm sure I speak for Gaius as well when I say Return, Revenge, Resurrection podcast is a great listen and great channel to go follow. So we will have Dean and Alex's channel in our description for the episode and posted for you guys to go give them a look if you haven't already done so. Totally recommend it, and are grateful to have you guys on this episode of The Blair Witch on its 25th anniversary. Guys, we have 185 other episodes for you guys to check out wherever you guys get your podcasts, and we are visible anywhere on social media at the handle Back to the Blockbuster. So come give us a look. Tell us your friends that like this sort of content to come give us a check. And of course, please go support our friends from Return, Revenge, Resurrection. Thanks a lot, guys. Gaius, I will see you next week. Actually, when you're back from San Diego Comic-Con, have a great time there, my friend. Can't wait to see you reporting from there and to see what great films you get to see there. I'm really excited for you, man.
Nice. Thank you.
Are you telling me you guys don't hear the baby? You don't hear the baby?
Shut up.
I hear no baby.
It's definitely behind Jackson for real.
I'm turning my lamp on now.
All right, peace, guys.